So when Chris asked me to come up here and talk to you guys, he wanted me to shake things up a little bit. And so I thought I'd do that by approaching this from a technologist perspective, from an entrepreneurial perspective. Talk about 4 big trends that I do a lot of consulting about, which people on the face seem to be very familiar with. They think they understand. But do so from a deeper angle and talk about how the depth of these trends are really changing business. During the break, Garrick and I were talking about how entrepreneurs, when they're faced with large corporations, the best thing that they can do is cheat, particularly if it gives them an unusual advantage against the corporations against which they're competing. So I think I'll be able to show you some ways in which that's happening. So the first of the 4 themes that I wanted to talk about, this is what I'll be doing. The first of them is that information is free. This is something that's said a lot, particularly by people that are trying to steal media or justify their exorbitant MP3 collections. But in many ways, it's very true. Increasingly, things are free by default. It's a new business model being explored. No one's figured out quite how to monetize it yet, but it's certainly something that's very prevalent. And also important, millennials, people who are under 27, are increasingly expecting it to be the default. So if you speak to someone in their mid-20s, they're as liable to expect you to give it away as sell it to them. One example of this is the Pirate Bay. Oh, I see it did not convert well, but Pirate Bay is a website based out of Sweden. It's a BitTorrent site. It allows you to go there and find files from movies or videos, video clips, MP3s, music, whatever it is that you like. What's not often known about it is that you can also get software. You can also get books. You can get translations. You can get any number of things which are freely available for download. Due to the legal system in Sweden, this is completely legal to do, although if you're living in Idaho, it may or may not be. It's equally accessible. What's less well known, so I'm trying to do the known, the suspected, and then the truth. What is suspected is that much more is available than just media. Something that I like to point out is that companies, or entrepreneurs particularly, are able to get all the sort of business infrastructure that big companies have for free. They can go online and get business plans. They can find ways to construct their documents. They can get how-tos for setting up LLCs in a way that's never been available before. So an individual, if they want to set up a small company, they can find a way to do that in a competitive manner very, very quickly in a way that hasn't been able to happen before. So now increasingly, I'm speaking to people in their 20s who are saying, well, do you really recommend an LLC versus a partnership? Because I understand that if I do it in Nevada, and you're like, well, dude, you're 21. Don't sweat it yet. But they've done a lot of this research, and they're modeling their contracts after Coca-Cola or whoever else they can get. The truth, of course, is that this is penetrating much more deeply than any of us realize. Google Hacks refers to the use of advanced phrasing or advanced small snippets that you can put into Google to get better search results. Google supports this. They helped publish a book about it. Basically, it's like being a power user for Google. What has been missed is that Google cracks are much more prevalent. And in fact, while you can go and buy a book about Google Hacks to get better search results, you can go to web forums, you can get videos, you can get how-to walkthroughs to use Google, which is one of the most user-friendly applications on the internet, to steal confidential information from your competitors, which turns out is really handy if you're an entrepreneur to basically look for confidential information from someone that you're trying to compete against. So again, this is an advantage that entrepreneurs may or may not make use of. Again, obviously it's illegal, but it's very, very available. And so we have to consider that when we look at the new landscape. One of the other big themes that I talk about a lot is radical transparency. And it's something that we all kind of like the idea of, although it's threatening, we think that this is going to be impactful. One of the best examples is Redfin. Redfin was a real estate firm based out of Seattle. They were doing very badly for a while until their CEO got a fit of some kind and started blogging about all the nasty insider remarks and mechanisms of the real estate industry, which completely ostracized him from his peers but won him an enormous following from customers because they started to realize, well, hey, this real estate agent is screwing me over, this guy's telling me the truth, now I'm able to be educated about it. So now Redfin's doing reasonably well. An example of what is suspected is that this is happening in new ways, in new markets. This is a banner ad that someone from EVE Online, which is a massively multiplayer online game, is using in order to try and get elected. CCP, the company that runs EVE Online, decided that in order to solicit feedback from their customers, they would have a deliberative democracy. So now the public at large or players, are electing up 9 representatives who have been flown out to Iceland to represent the players in talking to the company. Now keep in mind, these are people that are spending $30 a month to fly fake spaceships around a virtual world, right, and mine rocks. And they're spending a lot of their time on there trying to campaign to each other. So it indicates that there's a kind of a new conversation and a new dynamic coming out here. Of course, the truth is that this is happening much more aggressively even than that. BlueShirtNation.com is a website that was set up by 2 marketing guys at Best Buy. Best Buy is a company in the U.S. that they sell consumer electronics. They pitched the idea to their executive board that they should make a website with web forums and wikis and whatnot for Best Buy employees to chat with each other about the experience of working at Best Buy. And management said no. So they went home, and over the weekend they spent $100 and set one up. And now I think it's two-thirds of all the Best Buy employees are on the website using it. So Best Buy fortunately realized that this was something that could be really valuable. So they are now using this to change the setup of their stores. They've changed the processes. They are basically involved in a conversation with Best Buy employees, which has improved retention rates. This is all really good. The flip side of that is, what happens when your competitor sets up one of these for your employees, or participates in it, instead of your employees? It's now somewhat of a threat if you don't start doing it, and that's starting to happen in some fairly discrete ways. Another big trend that gets talked about a lot is this offshoring, outsourcing, and the first example of that is Mechanical Turk, run by Amazon.com. Mechanical Turk allows you to take menial online tasks and distribute them so that anyone can do piecemeal labor. It's pretty boring to do. It's not a very interesting setup. It can yield useful results, but it's not the best example of crowdsourcing. What we've started to see more of now is the availability of specialists. So, for example, if you need a chemist or a coder or an architect or an accountant, you can find someone online who's willing to bid on a project-by-project basis to produce something for you. Couple that with peer review, with recommendation systems, and you can pretty well bet that you're going to get a very competitively priced, competent result very quickly. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world when you want to try and do it. So what this means for the entrepreneur is that the ability to scale and obtain specialist skills is easier now than ever, which makes them competitive in a new way. The truth, of course, this is a bit of a big cartoon, but it's been passing around on the internet, is that this sort of specialization is happening across regulation and across nations. So this cartoon makes jokes of gold farming. Gold farming is the act of playing an online game, basically cultivating whatever the goods are that if you kill monsters and get gold, or collect flowers or whatever it is, gathering those things up and then selling them virtually in another market where it's more lucrative. This happens a lot from China to the U.S. It's illegal, but it's also really popular because when you're playing a video game, you get tired of having to kill the same monsters all the time. So why not just drop $20 on eBay and you can get yourself some nice-looking armor or whatever it is. What's interesting about this is it's not just people sitting in basements in China playing the game and farming gold. It's also people sitting in basements in China and doing advanced economic analysis of the markets upon which these factors touch, the rates of gold, the rates of swords, etc., and then attacking those same markets in order to improve the value for themselves. As these currencies become more valuable and more important, the fact that they're deregulated means that they're more vulnerable to this sort of thing. The last point that I wanted to touch on was new currencies. So we all suspect that new currencies are coming up. QQ coins is one of the best examples. It's MMO in China, and it's one of the biggest. For a while, they enabled you to go to a deli or a mini mart or whatever and take your online currencies that you'd earned from killing monsters or whatever it was in the game and buy yourself a bag of chips or some more time on your phone or whatever it was. The problem was, because it's a completely unregulated currency, the employees at their quarterly review would go out and have a fire sale with coupons and whatnot to bump up the numbers of the amount of transactions happening so that they looked good, right? They'd really increased things. Of course, immediately after that, the market responded, the valuation dropped, and lots of mom-and-pop shops were unable to sell bags of chips because they now had too many QQ coins, which you can't eat, it turns out. So that's a bit of a problem, and eventually the government interceded. What's suspected is that this is happening more and more in the real world, and in fact it is. This picture illustrates that in many parts of the world, airtime minutes are being used as a currency. So in Africa, particularly, where local currencies are extremely volatile. Airtime minutes, which is sending someone else a certain number of minutes that they can speak on their phone, is becoming a new substitute currency. This is much more reliable, less subject to inflation. It's also much more convenient because if you're trying to buy something from someone across a national border, you can do so as long as you have the same telco. It's no longer a matter of what your bank can support. Also, you don't have to have a bank account at all, which is handy. The truth, of course, is that online currency trading is rampant. There are lots and lots of tools. You can get real-time updates of the value of a World of Warcraft gold piece versus the Star Wars Galaxy credit or the US dollar. I think Star Wars is up today. The problem with this is that it makes money laundering really, really easy. If I do a lot of work with IT security specialists and was told recently that if I wanted to buy a bunch of credit cards, the best possible way to do it is with World of Warcraft swords because they're having a lot of inflation, or the price of swords is way up, and so you can pass a great number of swords, which are worth a lot of actual currency, between two completely anonymous entities very quickly. So if you want to buy a lot of credit cards to commit fraud, you should do it with swords. This is sort of the new economy for these entrepreneurs. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, things are getting pretty fast and loose. The example I like to use is if I wanted to, over the weekend, I could set up a web firm. I could contact a web firm in Argentina who could make a site hosted in the Netherlands, selling a virtual object, and tell everyone about it, that I was doing it in order to avoid the taxes and fees, because why not? There's no reason why not. And in parting, I wanted to use this. This refers to a meme that passes around on the internet, LOL cats, and I happened to miss this one until my virtual assistant in Bangalore signed an email to me with this, and then I had to go Google it up. And the reason that and it means, all right, thank you, goodbye. The reason I use this is that the vocabulary, the language that these new entrepreneurs are using is both international and completely obtuse to those of us that aren't participating. And I think that that's an important thing to consider. Thank you.